first order of business is my pastorate. We did have the pledge of allegiance at a public hearing this morning. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Welcome, Ms. Azalea. I just wanted to take the opportunity this morning to thank our staff and services. Because of them, 200 kids were able to receive Christmas gifts over the holiday season. It's quite a large undertaking, and they do an awesome job. A lot of you probably see the Christmas trees throughout the county complex. A lot of the public donates, county employees donate. I just want to go through the list and hopefully don't forget anybody. Community members, Adirondack Medical Center staff, Cedar Run Bakery, and their patrons, St. Elizabeth Church, St. Philip Neri Church, Willsboro Catholic Daughters, DEC staff, and the Marine Toy Program. From social services staff, Sherry Reynolds organizes the Christmas program. Social services staff that help included Phyllis, Amy, Chantel, Holly, Wes, Kelly G, Suanne, Dan, Angie, Mary Stanley, Becky, Luann, Lise, Derek, and several others. And if I left somebody out, I want to apologize. In addition to the gifts we receive and then get out to our clients, Erica Sleeper, Kelly Bascom, and Miranda Gador, Chantel Cross operated the Toys for Tots station in Mariah. Morgan Sadowski, Maddie Alcott, and Cindy Lange are from the Mariah National Honor Society. They chipped in and helped out with that as well. The Knights in Columbus and Keysville, under the guidance of Mr. Moreau, do the event in Port Kent. It's actually Keysville, but it's known as the Port Kent event. Through that program, 857 children were invited. We don't know how many ended up showing up, but they're quite huge events. They take a lot of work, and they make everybody's holidays just a little bit better, and I just wanted to recognize that on behalf of all those that are involved. Any questions on that? Okay. One other thing I wanted to bring up, I know it's really, really cold out there, but summer really isn't that far off. A lot of you are going to be thinking about your summer programs pretty soon and getting those things in order. Next month, our lifeguard training has been set. I know it's difficult that a lot of your people are in college and whatnot, but being that the length of the course and the number of instructors we have in the county, we have to somewhat accommodate that. So there's 10 courses altogether. We do have the flyer. It's gone to schools. You'll see them in your towns. Once the training is complete, I will get you all a list of those lifeguards that are struggling to get them. I think we've done a little bit better the last few years, but some people continue to struggle to get those lifeguards so they can open their beaches and pool areas in the summer. Any questions on that? One other thing I want to talk about this morning, just real brief. A lot of you probably have saw that the impacts of the government shutdown, in particular to SNAP. And right now, we're good through the end of February in terms of SNAP. We have to do a lot of work. We may have to have some overtime in order to get those eligibility people determined by January 20th. But we're going to be good through February. If it were to continue, it could be problematic. My concern is, the perception of who a SNAP beneficiary really is. And I can tell you in our county, about half of them are senior citizens. They are the people that are receiving that benefit that are on fixed incomes. It's not what everybody always thinks. So to me, it's critical that the federal government, whether it remains shut down or not, comes up with a game plan on how to make those accommodations for those individuals. Food pantries are stressed this time of year. I'm not thinking that's going to be a feasible option for most individuals, or even that they can meet that expectation locally. If you did go to an emergency type assistance, the county then is responsible. So if something doesn't happen by March or there isn't a continuing resolution, we could be on the hook for a large amount of money. utilizing cash benefit system. We don't budget for those sorts of things because, quite frankly, we don't anticipate that the government's going to shut down. Those are the way SNAP works. Is we are really the eligibility. We determine eligibility and we handle applications, those types of things. But as far as the actual dollars, none of it even filters through us. Those dollars are put directly onto EBT cards once we make those determinations. But if there's nobody to put it there and we're forced to go to an emergency type assistance, then we will be culpable in that. And our reimbursement rate will be much less. I think Mr. Gilliland has a question.
Yeah, Mike, could you just let everybody know about how many kids we've got?
Yeah, throughout Essex County, we have about 3,100 people. About 10% of our population receives SNAP benefits. Of that, about 1,600 or so are seniors. So almost half. A number of them are children, single families, those types of things. People that are working every day, that are struggling to make ends meet, but need that assistance to not have to make decisions between medication, housing, heat, those types of things.
Do you know what the dollar amount on the mic is?
Well, here's what I can tell you. I do know the dollar amount, and not to be an alarmist, but we don't spend, it doesn't run through us. If we were to have to spend money, it'd be about $400,000 a month. It's about $4 million a year spent in Essex County on SNAP alone. So you can imagine how that shakes out across the nation. We're likely a drop in the bucket in terms of dollars, but for us, that impact could potentially be tremendous over a year's time. If we were to have to upfront that money and then wait for a reimbursement as far as the state's concerned, which we'd probably get about 50% of that back, we'd be on the hook for about $200,000 a month until this situation was resolved. Right now, it's 100% reimbursed, so the impact's tremendous.
No, I was going to say, Mike, I don't know whether you got the calls, but I've been fielding calls and I've been setting them to you, unfortunately. Yeah. I should have tipped you off, but I didn't know the answer to that. I think that it's good for the press to know how the government shutdown affects Essex County and the people in the SNAP program and or TA assistance program. So I appreciate you taking the time to do that.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
Other questions or concerns with Mike? Yes.
Yeah, Mike, and I know this is probably a silly question because I know you're prepared for everything. Have you got a plan in case this does come to fruition?
Absolutely not. Right now, I have no plan. Right now, I'm hoping that our
Cooler heads will prevail.
I do appreciate your honesty.
well, at the end of the day, I think our only option would be to go to some sort of contingency or fund balance. We don't budget for those types of things, so I think our options are pretty limited in terms of what we could do if it were to come to what I explained. If our hands were forced to continue to pay for it, it would be something we'd have to bring in front of this board, probably on a month-to-month basis, looking for some sort of renewal. I'm hoping it doesn't come to that. I'm thinking that, we'll hopefully be able to get along, work together, but time will tell, right?
Thank you.
Other questions or concerns for Mike? Thank you very much, Mike.
Thank you.
Next up, mental health, Terry Morris. Good morning, Terry. Good morning. Almost 50 hours.
That's right. I don't have to dress like it's winter. Good morning. Isn't it a great day today? I'm excited because I just spoke with one of our schools in our county that is willing to implement at Crown Point. Where's Crown Point? Your school has decided to assist in implementing a program that will be proactive about mental health programs in our county. So very excited about that. Proactive. if there's anything you'll learn about me is that I'm focused on being proactive rather than after it's a 40-year-old who's been traumatized and not have gotten recovery, and to try to backpedal on their substance use issue. Let's deal with it early. So I have some changes in my highlights and discussion points that I want to bring to your attention. So last month I was here and I asked for a resolution to contract with Families First to provide some children and family services because they couldn't do it, and they had to kind of run money through us because they weren't licensed to provide those services, so they had to partner with me. Office of Mental Health gave them their waiver, so I don't have to do that. So that's good news. Makes it easy on our county to do that, and the staff at Essex County Mental Health. The other thing I wanted to bring attention is that the 6 clinicians in our office that were getting training on EMDR, which means eye movement desensitization reprocessing, actually went to their training yesterday, and they gave me lots of good feedback that they really saw the value in it. And again, it's about being proactive and addressing trauma before it gets firmly embedded into an individual system. Last Thursday, the Mental Health Association, one of our community services board partners, submitted a grant to the Adirondack Health Institute to support and expand Essex County's transportation services. So in partnership with Chrissy Lierkes from Office of the Aging and Jim Dugan from DPW, and also Marge Garcia from ACAP, we all looked at how we could utilize our resources that we already have in place to expand our services if we had more money to do that. So we wrote a grant for, I think it was $163,000 to provide vouchers to taxi services to provide Medicaid recipients some transportation to non-Medicaid locations. For example, their pharmacy, the grocery store, maybe probation. So some other things that they don't have, they can't access Medicaid funding for. The other thing too is that we're looking at that ALICE population, that one check away from Medicaid, and they allowed us to use some of that, if we get awarded the money, they will allow us to use some of that funding for that population too, because they see the value of, again, being proactive. Let's get that group of people to their appointments, etc., so that they don't fall into that Medicaid. That's it. That's it for my updates. So I have some resolutions to share with you. I have
Harley, excuse me.
Yes.
I do have a question for Terry. You said does it have to be taxi? I know ACAP runs a volunteer program for transportation that just reimburses the driver.
So that's a great question. I guess I was using taxi in a generic way of defining the word non-self transportation.
Okay.
So yes, we can use it to support ACAP's volunteer, like that reimbursement that they give their volunteers. Yes.
Right. And who's going to coordinate those rides if this grant comes to fruition?
The Mental Health Association is hiring an individual to be sort of an air traffic controller of how, if somebody calls that 1-800 number, says I need a ride to and from, and then the Mental Health Association employee connects with ACAP or Office of the Aging or public transportation, and we will be getting some money to allocate towards education to the county, whether it be marketing materials, etc., to educate county community members on what's available and how to use it, because we definitely want to eventually transition as many people as we can to our public system.
Good. Thank you.
Because the funding is only for 1 year.
Right. Thank you. I hope you get it.
Thank you. I hope we do too.
One other question in regards to this. Are the same persons that were involved with the taxi problems going to be involved with this program?
I'm so glad you asked that. That's why we are getting funding to support the partners in our community that we trust. So ACAP, Office of the Aging, and DPW, to me, are partners that we can trust and rely on to use funding appropriately. So as much as, let's say, one of our clients at Essex County Mental Health says, I need a ride to and from, we're going to channel them that direction instead of the other direction. It's not going to solve the entire problem, but it's going to help.
Other questions in regards to this? Moving on.
So resolutions, the Community Services Board needs to extend some terms. Do I have to read all of those?
An endorsement of this resolution. Mr. Monte, a second, please. By Mr. Jackson. Questions or concerns? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Second resolution to authorize the appointment of Dr. Paul Elazauri of the Adirondack Medical Center to be a designated physician for the Community Services Board.
Endorsement by Mr. Politi. A second, please. By Mr. Merrihew. Questions, concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
That's it. Thank you very
Any
much.
other questions or concerns? Yes, Mr. Preston.
Okay, so you're going to learn that I'm a pain in the backside.
Awesome. You'll make
But
me stronger.
okay. I don't know, you might think, but I've had, remember, a couple holes cut in my hand. Well, my opinion only, is every day we wake up and there's been another police officer shot and killed, or another, school shooting and stuff like this. In my opinion, I'm a professional in nothing. This is coming from some type of hatred within these kids that they grow up with, and for whatever reason, when it, and then it gets to the point they explode and this happens. Is there any studies going on, to your knowledge, as to where does this hatred come from? And does it do any good to have resource officers in schools, because the kids then can grow up respecting police officers? I'm just curious, because there's so much hatred that, and I personally think, and again, I could be full of doo-doo, I still think this is something that's, starts at an early age, and this hatred comes up. And I think we need to start with kids at an early age and have them know that the police are their friends. And that, as far as, other kids, people are their friends, and there's help out there.
You're absolutely right, Mr. Preston. I believe that the challenges that we're facing in our society today are a societal problem. There is no one contributor to the problem, unfortunately. If there was, we'd all do full court presses on those factors. It's what you bring up is the primary reason why we need to be proactive in our efforts to help the young people in our community learn how to be good citizens. And the program that I'm talking to schools about implementing will do just that. When I was a kid, we had civics class. How many of you know that in schools today they teach civics class? It doesn't exist. So I'm not saying we should go back to doing things like we did in the 1950s or 60s, but I think there are some things that we need to do as a community here in Essex, because that's what we have some influence over, that will help change the direction or improve the direction of our citizens at a very early age. So yes, I'm right on board with you. Putting police people in schools, that's a stopgap measure to a much more serious problem. I hope I answered your question.
Thank you. You did.
So, sorry,
Mr.
yeah, sorry, I missed a little bit of that. I had a meeting. I think a lot of it stems from bullying. When you look at a lot of the underlying causes of these school shootings, it's bullying.
So because I know what Linda's going to be talking about, I don't want to steal her thunder, but this is a really great segue to something that she's going to be sharing in her report. And yes, I believe that trauma, and I use that term very loosely, could be trauma at home by watching mom and dad argue, so it gives an individual a sense of they just don't have a solid foundation. And so the schools, to me, the schools are kind of the primary resource to help change the direction of our citizens, improve the direction of our citizens. And they're already being, there's so much pressure on schools right now that my heart goes out to them. And what I'm hoping I can help them do is create a program that will actually help them get back to teaching.
Other questions, concerns? Terry, this morning?
Yeah, this is probably a 20-year fix. It's going to take a long time. Thank you.
Next up, public health, Linda Beers. Good morning, Linda.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Stephanie. Good to see you here. Well, myself, DSS, and mental health have been meeting monthly. One of the things that I will call to your attention is my report. It talks about ACEs, and ACEs are adverse childhood experiences. We know through studies, lots of them, that 10 simple questions have been able to define what experiences children have that affects them throughout life. So I gave you a list of them. There's resources there. So ACEs is adverse childhood experiences. They're stressful or traumatic events, including abuse, neglect. And they were designed by 10 questions. So you administer these 10 questions, and the score of these 10 questions, it doesn't matter which one you answer yes to. It's a cumulative thing. So if you have 2 ACE scores or 3 ACEs scores, the data shows a higher number of ACEs scores. Now, these are things that happen to a child from birth to 18. These are things that they didn't do. These are things they were experienced with or witnessed, changed their outcomes for life. So exactly what Terry said, we're really taking a proactive approach. We are looking at getting lots of implementation into the school, looking at the scores of the students here in Essex County and seeing what we can do. So it's not all doom and gloom. Lots of kids have high ACEs scores, come out very poorly on this, but what changes that? And that answer is resiliency. So there's many things that can be taught to students today. One of the factors, one of the programs that Terry mentioned, I just used some grant money to buy the curriculum for. So again, we're working in partnership. Terry came up with a program, I bought the materials, and then together we're going to see if we can pool some money to work on these adverse childhood experiences, and look to see how we can build resiliency in our students. These things are evidence-based programs. We're not making them up. We know for a fact how they work. Just to give you an idea, 2/3 ACEs are common, nearly 2/3, 64% of the adults have at least one. They cause adult onset of chronic disease such as cancer, heart disease, mental illness, violence, and being a victim of violence. So you're like, wow, so what happens to a child matters all of their lives. It is absolutely proven fact that people that have higher ACEs scores have more heart disease, have more depression, are also much more prevalent to have substance abuse issues. So if we can change these adverse effects for the students and our children today, we know for a fact it will change their outcome long term. And if we can't fix everything in somebody's home, which we know we can't, what can we do to build resiliency in these kids? And that's what we're really going to target in the years ahead. We've had a really fabulous partnership with Mike taking over as Terry and the public department, so we've really been working in tandem. On that note, I will also tell you that this Friday at 1 o'clock is ECHO, which is the Essex County Heroin Opioid Coalition. That group is meeting all the time equally. So in that group, we look at prevention, intervention, treatment, and recovery. That's the whole spectrum of substance use disorders. And I concentrate in the prevention world because that's my world, but we have lots of partners that are working on treatment and recovery and building more resiliency into that, and looking at the children that are affected by that and targeting those children to build resiliency in, because we already know they have adverse effects. So what can we do to lift them up? So those are some of the things we're working on, and I'm pretty excited about that. I have, I believe, 5 resolutions, and they're all bringing money into the county, so it's a very good day to do that. And I also want to be able to call Jessica Darnay-Buehler up. She wants to talk to you briefly about the community health needs assessment and a survey that we need your support on. So I will go through the resolutions. So the first resolution I have is to accept from that some cultural competency and health literacy. We involved ourselves in the grant for that, did all the initiatives, and for that we were rewarded $1,250. So I need a resolution to accept that money.
Endorsement of this resolution by Mr. Monte, and a second please by Mr. Giordano. Questions, concerns? There being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
This is another example of the DSRIP. Remember Medicaid redesign. This is more money that we put into our CHA, the community health, the home health agency unit. They've been working diligently to reduce Medicaid readmissions of our people, the staff have working with the people that we support. And in lieu of that, and for their performance, they've been awarded $59,035. So that's money we would not have had in this county. And some of this money will be used to work on all of the programs like telehealth.
Endorsement of this resolution by Mr. Politi and a second by Mr. Monte. Questions, concerns? There being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
We also got $5,000.69 from Adirondack Health Institute for DSRIP funds for involvement in the program.
Endorsement of this resolution. Mr. Monte, second by Mr. Politi. Questions, concerns? There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
So this is a unique one. You know that we are now Tobacco 21 in Essex County, and I'm pleased to say that. But there was money put out by all the advertising and all the programming we did. And we wrote a grant, and the Adirondack Rural Health Network paid us back for the money. So we put the monies back in that we spent. We have money for $3,000 that went to the money we used. So we got that money back into the county that it took.
An endorsement of this by Mr. Jackson. Mr. Monte, second. Questions, concerns? There being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
The next is to accept training. So when we send our nurses to training, while there's an opportunity to do DSRIP and there's money, all of these trainings come under the effect that we're making in advancing our workforce. So Jim Newberry, I give her all the credit. She always writes them. They're not always approved because some of this is business as usual and they know that. But sometimes these things are said to really, they believe, change the path and really build staff up. And this is one of them. So we sent nurses through training and we were reimbursed $3,889 for that training.
An endorsement of this resolution by Mr. Monte and a second by Mr. Politi. Questions? There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
So I'm going to ask Jessica, but I do want you to really, we are putting a lot of work into our reports. I will also call out that we equally have federal issue with WIC. WIC dollars are federally funded, and so we are equally keeping an eye on that. Also, the WIC group met and they had a race around Mirror Lake, and I believe it's in there, but like 115 people showed up. It was 10 below zero that day. All the proceeds this group raised were given to WIC again this year, and we gave 40 families gifts for Christmas. So it's really been a tremendous effort, and I'm really quite proud of them. And Jessica is going to come up. Okay, Jessica Darby.
Hi again, everybody. Thanks, and good to see you all. If you remember, I hope most of you have a memory that last month we talked about summarizing our community health assessment that ended in the 2018 year. And in our report, we had an image that looked like this. I wanted to let you know that that full report is completed now. It was submitted to the State Department of Health, and it's available on our website. So if you chose to do that over, it's there for you. And then we're going through another cycle. So the health department is responsible for comprehensive community health assessment every 3 years. We're conducting that now. And we're doing a lot of new things this time around in order to help us achieve our public health accreditation standards that we are striving towards. So we're looking for your support in two areas. We have a community or resident survey that we're sending out that looks like this, and I'll pass it out afterwards. You'll see there's a QR code on the top, so if you have a reader on your phone, you can just zap that. It'll take you right over to the survey. You can also type it in. It's a Survey Monkey. You can complete this survey, drop it in back to me, and we'll enter it electronically. So this is the community level survey. It's asking people for needs for themselves, for their families, what they see going on in their communities. We're using all that information to help us formulate what we're going to do for our interventions coming up in the 3 years ahead. So this is one of them. And then the second one is somewhat similar. It's only going to be available electronically. Linda will send it out to town supervisors and your clerks. And we're seeking your support in getting that one completed too. That's from your perspective as a town supervisor. What do you see? What do you identify in your own communities? And how can you give us feedback on that information? So both of these surveys only take about 10 minutes to complete. They're all different questions, so even if you personally complete both surveys, you're not answering the same things. We're going to have the links available on the health department website, on our Facebook page. We're asking if you can support us by doing the same thing for that community survey. If you have a way to share that electronically, to get it out to everybody that you work with in your towns, that would be most appreciated. So I'll hand those out. And if you want more paper copies for your town offices, we can prep those and send them off to you.
Yeah. So again, the community survey is for all the citizens in your county, in your townships. The more we get, the more input, the better picture we have of the county health. They're really fabulous questions. They're quick to answer, and I think you'll find them really useful if your community members answer them. The second one is a stakeholders survey. You are stakeholders, right? And that's the one I want you specifically to answer as in your job. And that sums up our report for today.
Thank you very much, Linda. Other questions or concerns for our interviewers? Yes, Mr. Giordano. Bill,
A couple things. One, I heard on the radio or in the news recently that the state may make tobacco 21 statewide. Are we taking a look, or can you try to find out what that language looks like to make sure that, to see what we have to do with our local law?
Yeah, it would supersede if the state goes 21. It'll go. The state division that we had here the TUPA grant will overshadow that, and our law will be dissolved, and we will go with the state law. I think you'll find that going hand in hand with marijuana, to be fair.
That's the other question I have for you, is marijuana. Do you know if they're putting 21 on that?
That is our push. So you should know the New York State Association of County Officials. We came out with a white paper in opposition to marijuana recreationally. That being said, when it does go through, we're certainly looking to make sure that it is 21 and above. We have tons and tons of data that say the earlier use of marijuana smoking affects people long-term, just like ACEs, right? So we are pushing for that, and I mean we, as in every local health department in the entire state of New York, has really come out strongly against under 21. So that is the hope that when marijuana recreationally rolls out, the laws will change for marijuana smoking as well as tobacco.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions for Linda? Thank you very much, Linda. You covered a lot. Next up, Missy Lakins. Engaging.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Just want to highlight a few comments in my report. On the front page of the report, you'll see that we are piloting a program in NYSOFA, New York State Office for the Aging, to bring some furry creatures to the county. The robotic cats and dogs that we'll be adopting now, if you will, to older adults that may be socially isolated, may have some cognitive impairment, may have just recently experienced a traumatic event, maybe losing the loss of a spouse. They may be going to the next level of care. Maybe they're leaving their home, going to maybe assisted living or even senior apartments where animals are not allowed. So we're going to adopt out these. We have 2 cats and 2 dogs coming. Mr. Palmer, I don't think you wanted to adopt one, did you? So these robotic cats and dogs, they've been coming out across the nation. Some of our local nursing homes have some on their units. And it's just basically there to give some companionship to these older adults. There is also in my report, I think a newspaper or an article about a nursing home, a VA nursing home down in Albany that was highlighted using these robotic animals. So stay tuned. They are in transport as we speak, so I was hoping to bring one today. But piggybacking what Terry had talked about with transportation, our transportation program, as many of you know, we utilize RSVP volunteers. We have a very small pool. On any given day, we range between 7 to 9 volunteers, more in the nicer weather months. But those volunteers provide all of our transportation to those individuals that are 60 and over, non-Medicaid. If somebody has Medicaid, then we utilize the Medicaid reimbursement transportation. But these are individuals that, again, they're the Alice household, they're close to being Medicaid, but they're not at that level yet. Without our transportation services, they are going to end up in the hospital, they're going to end up in the nursing home, they're going to end up on Medicaid. So we are, as always, putting a big push out there, trying to get more volunteers. We utilize RSVP guidelines because they do an extensive background check. So if you are aware of anybody that's 55 and older that wants to give back to their community, spend some time with their peers, with older adults in their communities, definitely send them our way. Let's see. Again, I have the HEAP, the Home Energy Assistance Program updates. The emergency benefit opened at the beginning of the month, which we're grateful for. And then the last part of my report just talks about the updates and some changes to the tax breaks that the folks that I serve, the older adults, some changes, the income verification process for the STAR, so on and so forth. I'm sure your assessors have talked to you about that. We have brochures in the office that we can send out to you if you want some more documentation to provide to the individuals in your community. Lastly, before I go to the resolutions, we talked about over the last couple of months about open enrollment for Medicare. That ended the middle of December. Right now, we are into another open enrollment for Medicare Advantage. But something new that we did this year was, and many other Office for the Aging, is we tracked the dollar amount that we saved individuals that came into the office and received our counseling. We're 100% unbiased. We're not affiliated with any insurance companies. We just want to make sure the folks that are coming in are getting the best knowledge that they need to make the best decisions so that way they can afford their medications. As of Friday morning, tallying some of those dollar amounts, I believe that Heidi, our high-cap counselor, had 40 clients that she had entered into our new system. And those 40 individuals that we worked with, there's many more, but of those 40, some we saved money, some their current plan was the great plan for them, but of those 40, we saved those individuals over $109,000 of medications that if they did not come in, medications that would have not been on their formulary for 2019 that they definitely would not have been able to afford. So that's dollars that those individuals are now able to keep in their pockets, spend in our communities, and still be able to get the medication that they need to keep them out of the hospital, ER, so on and so forth. So I do have a few resolutions and pertinent to our advisory council. The first is authorizing the reappointment of Ann Merkel from Saranac Lake to our advisory council for a 3-year term from January 1st, 2019 to December 31st, 2021.
Endorsement by Mr. Monte and a second by Mr. Giordano. Questions, concerns? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Second is again another reappointment of Lynn Edmonds from Osceola Forbes, Town of Jay, to the Essex County Office for the Aging Advisory Council for the 3-year term from January 1, 2019 to December 31st, 2021.
Endorsement of this by Mr. Politi and a second by Mr. Giordano. Questions, concerns? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
All right, and the last one is a new appointment of Colleen Bissett from Town of Ticonderoga to the Advisory Council for a 3-year term from January 1st, 2019 to December 31st, 2021.
Endorsement by Mr. Giordano and a second by Mr. Monte. Questions, concerns? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
And that's all I have unless somebody has any questions.
Any other questions or concerns for Chrissy? Thank you very much, Chrissy. Anything else to come before Human Services? Yes, Mr. Jackson.
Yes, I'd like to move a resolution with condolences to family of Josh Schwartzberg, a longtime physician in the area, lives in Essex at this time.
An endorsement of this resolution?
Second.
And